Welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. And tonight's discussion is from a viewer's question or questions, which I figured would be better off answered in an actual video because A, it's probably a common question, B, there's a lot to it, and C, other. The first question was, can you do a video about how you did get their toxic black energy out of your system, or how you healed yourself? Who says I healed myself? Jesus did it, or the devil did it, or I've healed many times, but I figured I would just bring this into a discussion regarding healing yourself. When you're dealing with a person or persons like this, you can't always just go to somebody you know and say, oh, this is what happened, because they are not going to get it. They weren't there to capture all the nuances of gaslighting and abuse, and if you try to explain it, you'll probably sound foolish. It leaves you devastated in many cases. Well, one of the things I've learned to do is use my own mind, because chances are, if you're in the discard or the ending phases of a cluster B relationship, we know you have a bunch of mixed emotions, that's a given, but you're going to feel overwhelmed in many cases, because chances are you've altered your regular previous life to fit around this creature, and then now all of a sudden it's all ripped apart, and what do you do? Well, it's a very devastating feeling, or it can be very devastating, and you'll be full of toxic black energy. But one thing I've learned to do, I can objectively look at the situation and say, do you know what? This could never go anywhere good. Well, a lot of times you can know that, but it still doesn't make all the painful feelings go away. But you could argue yourself out of it, how ridiculous it is, but nevertheless, you're still feeling that. And you hear others say things like, oh, you'll get over it. And you think, no, I won't, because it just feels so real. Well, one trick, at least in my experience I've used, is I've had a few of these situations where this happened. I remember in each one of those so-called relationships, there was that feeling of, I can't get through this. This is too much. It's just overwhelming, probably based on a number of factors. As they say with the cluster Bs, it's not like some of your other partners that vanished. It's like you got over them in a week or a day. But with these, it's different. And of course, there are many reasons for that. But I try to think back to one or two key players from the old days, and I take my mind back to the point where I do remember thinking those thoughts of, this person's gone and I'm just not going to be able to take this. And it was overwhelming, but guess what? I reminded myself now of each person's name and thought, do you ever think about either of them? And the answer is no. And so that's like serving as proof that although at the time you really felt you were attached to this creature and just couldn't let it go even though it was gone, and look at you now. Do you even care? No. But it took a while to get there. So you just have to pretty much tell yourself that I'll get over this. It'll just take time and I won't be able to force it. Because it is very difficult, or it can be. The number one way to heal yourself from such cluster B toxic monsters is the no contact cliche, which is actually true. Because you know, every time you open up contact with the creature, even if you step into it knowing, okay, this person is the cluster B creature, it's calling, I know this, I will answer because I know, good luck, it doesn't help, because you can think you're prepared all you want, but remember, in this person's eyes, you're a human cattle object to be used and they'll be disguising themselves as Mr. or Mrs. Perfect, and your mind will be telling you it's Mr. or Mrs. Horrible, but it'll be saying, oh no, I just want to be nice, I want to be nice, and it spins the same magic sick spell that you went through in the beginning. So each time you break that no contact, you open yourself up to the demon again. Because you may just think, oh, well, this will just be casual this time. Wrong. Another thing that can help with healing from dealing with monsters like this, which I discovered back in the over 20 years ago, I remember that I was with this person I just thought was, oh, this is perfect, oh, the perfect thing. And of course, that was superficial. And then the real person was a monster, which back then I had no idea these people even existed. Monster people? Reptilian shapeshifters? Come on, there's no such thing, is there? Well, back then it was just basically a learning experience. I was basically hooked, which I imagine is a symptom of codependency if you seek outside sources of validation. And that's exactly what I was doing, but at the same time I was also validating it. Something that may happen if you're still dealing with your cluster B monster, you can keep getting together and then breaking up, and then hoovering together again and breaking up again. And eventually, if you are an intelligent thinking person, you're going to see that the person you're messing with is the person you're messing with, and it's not going to become what you want it to become. Doesn't matter. All the things that make you think you can do it are all based in fictitious mirroring that wasn't even real. Eventually, it gets better. Eventually, it gets to the point where all the beauty that you saw physically in it no longer matters, because you just take a look at it and you recap all the memories that you've experienced with it that pretty much tell you this person is a piece of no good trash. This person will never be able to connect to another human being unless it wants something from them. It takes a while sometimes, but you get there and then you just kind of look at it with pity. And that's where you all should hope to be, because before you get there, you're tempted to use your magical thinking that, oh, well, this one time it was really nice, maybe it will be again. But nope, it was only nice that one time because it was pretending. But you do get to a point where you're just repulsed by the whole thing, and it doesn't always happen, though. And the way I described it was, you become so upset with it, and the fact that it is what it is, it gets to the point where it's so horrible, you don't even cry. It's like a level beyond crying. I know the crying stage and how you just do that to deal with the emotions, but after you move beyond a certain point, it's like, it's not worth tears, because it's so horrifying. You just think, oh, what was I doing? Because we always think we can fix things. We can't. Also, in terms of healing, one thing I discovered a while back was books. Well, now we've got internet. Now we've got YouTube. So you've got all kinds of resources. But I think the most healing part, whether it's through social media, whether it's through a book you read, a magazine article, or a blog, or whatever, doesn't matter what it is when you've experienced the cluster B experience and you've gone through it, when you come across a piece of literature, or you come across a website or a video or anything where you hear the problem that you think that you and you alone have, you hear every little piece of it being dissected before you, whether you're reading it or hearing it. And that is a liberating experience, because when you're going through the cluster B abuse, you may have said a few times, like, I feel abused, I think you're abusing me, and every time you'd be told, oh, you're silly and you're wrong. Well, you knew that you weren't, but there was nobody else to talk to, so you figured, oh, I better be quiet, and It messed up your mind, your brain. It gaslighted you. So here you are with the validation. For healing, it's good to look at every video you can, read every article you can, read every book you can. There's lots of information out there, so it's like an epiphany feeling where you read somebody's book about a subject and again, you thought it was unique to you, and then after a while you realize this behavior ain't unique. This behavior is the same thing for all of them, and it is in a lot of cases. But healing also includes laughter, which I've done that many times, where I've replayed some of the scenes of the Cluster B monsters and how they handled them, and just think, what a fool, and just think what fool they're trying to do it on now, and enjoy. But the good news is that you know that nobody else is ever going to have with that person what you wish you could have had with them, because the person was fake. Because I know that's one thing in the early days where I would think, okay, everything's perfect with this person except these things, and of course then it disappeared, and then it moved on to the next, and I'd think, oh no, it's going to have everything I wanted, but that person, and then guess what? It doesn't, and it never does. And sometimes it takes time. Healing takes time when you, for example, tell your lover who's leaving you because it found somebody new, and you tell it you're making a mistake. You're going to regret that, I can guarantee. And guess what? For the first month, year or so, it smiles and shows itself off to you, and then guess what happens later? Terror, some horrifying thing, and then you're like, I told you. I told you. That's healing. A lot of different things can help you with healing. So, in summary, I realize that this video is all over the place, but it was a viewer question of how did I get the toxic black energy out of my system, and we don't know if it ever completely exits your system, but I've tried to give just a few examples of the different things that helped in my journey to move beyond being depressed and worried and so on. I just think education, learning as much as you can from whichever source you can, will help. In my circumstances, I've actually been through several different versions of the same disorder, basically, to the point where I could actually call it before it happened and learn that that doesn't help either when you're dealing with this type. One of the other things that can be helpful, too, is to examine yourself, because chances are some of us just live our lives and we don't think about these things, but there are others out there who are looking for specific targets, so you need to know yourself well and what parts of yourself might appeal to con artists such as the Cluster B monsters. This Cluster B person knows more about you than you know about you, because many of us don't go around thinking, okay, I'm going to say this because it means that, or I'm going to do this so it looks like it means that, and we don't act that. We are just ourselves. But these people are fine-tuned into such things, so we've got to know ourselves. The viewer also had asked a second question, which was, when my soul was healed, did I get my creativity back? Which is a tough question, because I don't think I really ever lost any creativity. It channeled itself to be used in different ways, because there was a time when I was thinking music day and night, lyrics day and night, rhythms, beats, drums, all. I would go to bed and just lay there and just like go over rhythms, and that transferred over to other things. And then recently I've learned how to be creative by making a YouTube video that has special effects. So I don't really think the Cluster B took away creativity. It just forced it to move into different directions, because it's there. It's not phony like they are phony. The creativity's there. It just manifests itself in different ways. But with these Cluster B monsters, they don't have any. They don't have any creativity. And if you've gotten away from one alive, well, then it's time to celebrate. And I'm not professing to be like the cured person of any toxic whatever. I've just learned you have to use your experience to your advantage and hopefully not get trapped again into the cluster B monster's labyrinth.
Are you sure you want to really abandon me, a mother and a child? Are you sure? Is that what you really want?
My new lover tells me I shouldn't even think about you, but I was asked to do this interview, so I figured I would address these concerns. I hope you're happy. And my new lover told me I probably should apologize to you for the snakes and the mice, because he's afraid of them too. But I figured, no, it ain't worth it. You deserve those mice. You deserved those snakes. I had to teach you a lesson, little silver spoon baby. Ah.
They try to make me go to rehab. I said no, no, no. Yes, I've been bad and way. I couldn't, I'm good. No,